Okay, welcome back everyone. Today we'll be going through some basic security, basic passwords for our devices. Nothing extravagant, but just enough to get you on the way to understanding the different passwords, different login types into our Cisco devices. Really basic stuff, but still interesting and fun. So what we're going to do is we'll get a switch going on here. We'll get a 2960, nice and simple. We're going to put two PCs in this scenario. Okay. One of them is going to be connected through a console cable over to the PC over here. So that's a console cable. Let me just show you a quick picture of that. I'm going to grab one so you can have a look and see exactly what we're talking about. Grab a picture of one, images, Google, and console cable. So you know what we're looking at. I'm a fan of doing practical exercises, not just on Packet Tracer, because it's good to have some real practical experience. But in the end, these are what the console cables look like. So they've got on one end, this will go into the PC. So you need some adapters and you know, to be able to connect into it. But the idea is, if we look over here in this image, this is the idea. This is what we're trying to do. It's called, the old days we used to call them rollover cables, but there was an RJ45 to a DB9. It's like the old gaming control, something that looked like that, and we'd connect it into the switch. So that means that we have a physical connection to the router. Now, just to let you know that even though you can configure a really strong password to connect into the switch, it's actually not very secure, because there is a very quick way to reset this device so we can bypass so that we can reset the password ourselves. So it's not very secure, and it's not designed that way because hackers shouldn't, or malicious players should not be able to get to the physical access of a switch. If they've got that far, you've got bigger problems. You've got huge problems. You need to lock these devices really secure. But if they do get in there, it's an extra step for them. So I guess it's like the old days we used to have when we used to have the old cars before we had keyless entry and that. Thieves used to be able to break in, get a screwdriver and smash it into the key and twist it and be able to go. So we thought, what's the point of locking our doors, you know? Or we used to have steering wheel locks, you know, that once you just lock the steering wheel. So in those days, what's the point? They're going to be able to break in anyway, and they'll be able to break the steering wheel lock. They can, you know, use some coat hangers to get in or smash the window or something. So what was the point? But you know what? Let's make it as hard as possible for them. So with the console, we're going to make it hard as possible. We're going to configure passwords, because the other step will take like 4 or 5 minutes, maybe 5. If they know what they're doing, maybe less. Now the other way is, what we're going to do is we're going to actually connect a PC through like a network with an IP address. So we'll Telnet into this switch. Remember, Telnet's not very good security-wise, but for lab, it'll work for a lab environment. You're going to want to implement SSH. All right, so we'll get some IP communication between the switch and the PC. We'll go into the we'll configure for the PC an IP address of 192.168.0.3 and 255.255.0. That's good to go. We'll go into the switch. Now, I just want to get some connectivity, some network connectivity. So I'm going to assign an IP address to the switch, and the way to do that is int VLAN1. Okay, we'll give it an IP address because traditional switches don't do routing. They don't really deal in IP addresses, but we can still communicate with that device by assigning the VLAN an IP address. On this particular switch, by default, it's VLAN 1. So all the ports are assigned to that VLAN. In production environments, we will create a management VLAN, I don't know, VLAN 133 or something, so that we can access all our switches and our routers for management purposes. So we're going to isolate our management traffic. But we're just doing it simple, keeping it simple, Simon. So IP address 192.168.0.2, just have it because usually our routers exiting our network usually is a .1, just best practice, and then we're going to do a no shut, and now we'll be able to access this switch via our PC. Let's just do a quick ping to make sure that that's working okay. 2. The first one should say no, but the second one should be a bit more successful. So we're going to fast forward that, and it's good. All right, so we've got connectivity now. We've got a console cable, and we've got a normal networking scenario here. So we're going to configure 3 different passwords. Let's do this. The very first password that we're going to configure, and let's just exit that. We're going to configure, I'll show you what I'm doing here. When we first, you know what, let's do this. Let's go into our PC here. We'll go into our desktop, go to terminal. This is not how it's done in reality, but they're making it easy for us in Packet Tracer. So we're going to log into the console. And it kind of looks like that in a way. Now, if we do enable, it lets me in straight in. So, I mean, if a rogue laptop comes in, has a console cable, they just get in. There's no security at all. It's like leaving your door unlocked into your 1980s car. In the 80s and 90s, we didn't really have keyless entries and all that kind of stuff. So this is like leaving the door unlocked. We're just making it easy for the thieves. We should lock it. We should put a steering wheel lock on our wheel. We should, I don't know. So now what we're going to do is we're going to configure, so we'll go configuration terminal, and we're going to put a password on our enable command. So when we do enable, there's a password on it. So we're going to do enable password Cisco. It's the worst password you can imagine, but let's jump out of that. If we go to enable, we can put our password in there. Okay? But that is a terrible way to go because it's not encrypted. That's clear text. Anyone who has any experience in cybersecurity will be able to get through this in seconds. Let's make their job a little bit easier. Let's put a steering wheel lock on the steering wheel. We're going to encrypt it. Let's enable secret and say we'll just write class. Okay. We're going to encrypt it a bit. We're making it a little bit more difficult for our malicious players out there. Okay, let's jump out of that. If we go to enable, if I type in my password, not going to let me in, but if I type in my secret, enable secret, remember that? The one that's encrypted? That's going to take over now. You couldn't see that because it's blanked out, but I typed in class instead of Cisco. Again, terrible password, but we just want to get things up and running and working happily. Okay. All right, now next step. So that's good. So the console, we've got a password set up. Fantastic. What about things like Telnet, etc. Right? So now if I go into command prompt and if I type Telnet, I don't know if this works or not. I hope it doesn't, because this is terrible if it does. Closed by foreign host. Okay, so that's good. That's good. So it didn't work though. That's a good sign. The reason why is we haven't configured on our switch that can external users like from the network cannot log in from like using IP, using Ethernet, right? Right. So, but what was concerning me is that we actually have Telnet on this command line interface. Remember, Telnet is blocked on PowerShell. It's blocked on Bash. On Linux, it's blocked on Mac. Terminal, it's blocked on command line interface, which is like DOS. So if you're having trouble setting up a physical lab, you will need to enable Telnet by memory. Let's see if we can do this. If I go to search, and I think it's features, turn features on and off. I believe it's here somewhere. Or is it Telnet client? Yeah. So you would tick that so that you would be able to Telnet. If you're from a Windows machine, if you're in Linux or Mac OS, you'll need to install the package. But to be honest, I wouldn't do it. Use SSH, which I will configure a lab for. I will set one up later on because we want to secure our devices. Remember, Telnet is clear text password, so you can actually, using a tool like Wireshark or something like that, a packet sniffer, you can actually see the text, the password text. That's not good. All right, but we just want to get some sort of password connectivity. So what we need to do is, so we need to, for the console, we need to have an extra layer of security. So let's go to config T, and we're going to do this. Line console 0. So that's because I've only got one cable in, only one connection to each other, to the two devices. I'm going to create a password, Cisco, and then I'm going to do login. Okay. So what that's going to do now, if I'm at the console here, I need to exit this. So see that? When I'm logging in through the console, I'll need a password, which is Cisco. That's the first step. Then I need to put in my enable password, which was class, because it was enable secret. So I have sort of beefed my security up here a little. Remember, enable password is going to work for both console and Telnet. Okay. So if I'm connecting console, I use the console password. If I'm Telnet, I'm going to use a Telnet password, which I'm going to set up right now. Okay, so the way to do this is we need to do the following. Line VTY 015. So that means I can have up to 15, actually it's 16, 15 or 16, I can't remember which one it was. I think 0 is the first connection. So I think 16 connections. So 16 concurrent connections into our switch. Okay. So I'm allowing that to happen. Just for the fun of it, now that I've got that enabled, what would happen if we go into here now? No, still not happy. That's good. All right. So it's asking for us for more configuration. So what we'll do is we will do login first. Okay. So it's saying to us that it's disabled. We need to configure the password, and that will happen for console 2 if we did it the other way around. Let's give it a password now. So we'll do password Cisco. Then we'll do login. So now this is enabled now. All right, let's have a look if this is going to work now. Voila. Now this password is our Telnet password, Cisco. What about our enable password? It's going to be class. So that's basic security there, basic login and passwords, just to get you going. So if you're setting up a lab or even a production environment for the very first time, you would do this so that you've got basic connectivity. You can able to access this. Now, just a word of warning. remember that the console and all the passwords and the security, we can very, very easily, if we have physical access to this device, we can strip the console password in about like 3 or 4 minutes. So it's not going to stop all attacks. It's just going to make their life a little bit more difficult. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. So I'm going to do some more episodes where we configure SSH. We're going to do things like a TACAC server or Radius server, which is far more interesting, because if we've got like thousands of devices, thousands of users, we have to configure these users lots and lots of times. It's not efficient, but we'll tackle that another day. So remember, if anyone is interested in any other type of security, or that you got a particular focus that you want to look at through Cisco, or any other kind of security technologies, please send me a message in comments, and I'll have that. Maybe I might be able to get that up and running for you. But in the meantime, have a great day, afternoon, morning, weekend, weekday, holiday, religious day, non-religious day, whatever it is. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you, everyone.